Hello guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I will show you how to make this open world map in Unreal Engine 5 in under 20 minutes using only free assets that you can download from the Unreal Engine Marketplace. I will show you how to create this realistic open world map from scratch, starting by creating the landscape shape by using the built-in landmass plugin, which allows you to create dynamic terrain just by dragging around some simple splines. I will show you how to customize the settings so you can add things like mountains, hills, valleys, and create any type of terrain that you can imagine just by using these simple tools. Then we will download a free realistic landscape material that you can apply to our terrain, and I will show you how to fully customize the material settings. After that, we will add an ocean using the built-in water plugin inside of Unreal Engine, and I will also show you how to fully customize the water material to make it look more realistic. Finally, we'll add some free trees from the Unreal Engine Marketplace, and we'll paint our landscape with the foliage to create a densely populated forest. And if you guys enjoy this free tutorial, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to reach over 200,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and also I will be uploading more free tutorials just like this one, so you guys do not want to miss out on any future uploads. Also, feel free to hit the like button and leave a comment down below on what video tutorial you guys want to see me upload next. Now, before we get into the video, if you guys are genuinely interested into what goes into making open world games, I have a multiplayer survival game course bundle that shows you how to make a open world multiplayer survival game inside of Unreal Engine 5 from complete scratch. You will learn how to create a drag and drop inventory system, a crafting system where you can craft all sorts of different items, a harvesting system where you can chop down trees, you can mine rocks and pick bushes. We create an open world map that features a swimmable ocean, lakes, rivers, mountains, and much more. We create a procedural spawning AI system, a base building system and rating system, and we add Steam voice chat, player tribes, and so much more. This course has over 250 lectures which spans over 20 chapters and over 70 plus hours of course content. So check out the multiplayer survival game course bundle on my website smartpoly.teachable.com, and make sure you pick up the course before I raise the price of the bundle later on. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright, so the first thing that we'll need to do is go ahead and launch Unreal Engine 5.4.3, so go ahead and launch the latest version of the engine. Then once you've launched the engine, you want to go ahead and select the games template and choose the third person template. Of course, you could pick any other template that you'd like, but I'm just going to pick the third person and name our project to Open World Map and click Create. And once it launches the Unreal Engine, we have this third person map in here. So we can go ahead and use this for our map. So let's go ahead and get started. So first thing we'll need to do is we'll need to actually enable a plugin. So we want to go to your edit plugins, head over to the plugins and search for the landmass plugin. So we have this landmass plugin. You want to go ahead and hit the checkbox to enable that plugin. It's going to tell us that it's experimental, so we'll just click yes and click restart now. That will go ahead and restart our project and enable the landmass plugin. Now we can go ahead and create a landscape. So let's go to the landscape mode. So select the selection mode and go into landscape. And in here, we're going to change our landscape settings. So first of all, make sure that you have enable edit layers checked. So this allows us to create things like blueprint brushes and to create mountains and all sorts of different types of terrain using the landmass plugin. So make sure that you have that checked. Then we can tweak things like the overall resolution, which will change the size of our terrain. So I'm going to set my overall resolution to 1000 by 9 by 1000 by 9. And you can see it increases the size of our landscape. Now you guys can mess around with these settings and you can create even larger terrains, but this will do for the purpose of this tutorial. So just go ahead and click create. So once you go ahead and create the landscape, as you can see, we have our landscape over here. We want to go ahead and add a blueprint brush. So you want to head over and click on this blueprint button right here. And if you don't see this blueprint button, it's because you probably haven't enabled the plugin. So make sure you have the plugin enabled. So select the blueprint, and then over here in the blueprint brush, you want to hit the drop down and select this custom landmass brush. So custom brush underscore landmass, and give it a second because it might need to load it. But once it's loaded it, you can click anywhere on your map or on your landscape. And once you click onto that landscape, you can see that it adds this triangle. Also note that when you do this, it's going to take a while for it to load. So it took probably 30 seconds to load. But once you click on the landscape, it will add this spline point. So we have this triangle here. And now with this triangle shape selected, we can take any of these points and move this around. And we can create sort of a shape of our terrain. Now we actually want to select the whole thing. So select anywhere else on the map and reselect the landscape spline. And once you've done that, you should be able to access the brush settings. So now in the settings, we can see things like fall off, material, static mesh, blurring, curl noise. So we have all of these settings because we've selected the entire object. So the first thing that we want to set is the fall off. So expand the settings under the fall off. I'm going to click on this cap shape. And what you see that happens when you click on that is if I move this up, you can see that it caps the top of this triangle. So we don't have this peak. So this is really good for creating sort of an island where you need to have a flat terrain to sort of work on. Then we can change things like the fall off angle. So this is how steep this fall off is. So we can change this down to 30. But now we can select the brush. So let's actually select all of it. So if you select off and reselect it, we can move the entire brush. We're going to move this up, and it might be hard to see our brush in our map. So if you hit Ctrl+L, you can change the lighting in your scene, and we can actually move the sun around like so, by repositioning by just hitting Ctrl and L. And if you rotate your mouse around, you can reposition the sun, and this will just give us a lot better visibility of our terrain. But now what we can do is we can select any one of these points. So for example, if I select this point, I can go ahead and move it and position it where I'd like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of these points, and if you hold down Alt and drag, that will go ahead and duplicate a point. So we're going to create a very simple shape of our island by just dragging and duplicating points and creating a very simple shape. So once you've created a very simple shape, something like this, we should be able to start playing around with the different landmass settings. So you want to again select off of the brush or select any of the points, and that will select the entire brush. And then in the details, we should be able to set some of the settings. So we want to tweak some of the different settings to give this a more realistic look. So we need to go into the effects tab over here and expand the curl noise. So let's go ahead and play with the value. So in the curl noise, under the curl 1 strength, let's change this to 1. And what you'll notice automatically is it adds sort of this breakup on the edge. So we don't have a sharp edge. Now we can adjust some of the other different settings like the curl 2 strength. So if I set a value of 2, you can see that it adds sort of these islands on the edges. It just adds a little bit more realistic shape to our island. Now we can also change things like the tiling. So if I change the curl 1 tiling to 20, you can see that it will change the pattern type, as well as the curl 2 tiling. I can set this to 6, and it will also change sort of the pattern that we get. Next up, let's add some displacement. So if you scroll down, we have a section for displacement, and displacement will allow us to overlay a displacement texture that will break up our terrain and allow for a more realistic look. So under the displacement height, we can change this to 1620. We can also change things like the tiling. I'm going to change this up to 3, and you guys can play around with these values. These aren't just hard set. You can just play around with them and see what works best for you. And then we're going to play around with the terracing. So next up, we have the terracing value. So expand that, and in here we can play around with these. So I set my terracing alpha to 1, and as you can see, it sort of flattens out this middle section in our map, which is where the playable area will be for the player, or will be the main section of the island. Then we can also adjust things like the terra smoothing to 20, and what that does is it brings up that middle section, so we have sort of this flat playable area. And so we have the basic shape of our island. We can actually take the full thing by reselecting the brush, and we can actually move it up or down. So as you can see, if we place it lower, it actually looks a lot better like this. So now we can add things like mountains, hills, valleys, and much more. So to add another brush, what you can do is select on this blueprint, and under the blueprint brush, you want to select the custom landmass brush again, and then click anywhere on the landscape, and that will add another brush onto our landscape. So this adds, again, the default triangle. So as you can see, we can sort of create this mountain, and we want to tweak the settings so that this will obviously look more realistic than just a simple triangle. So again, you want to select off of that and reselect it so that we can adjust the settings such as the curl noise, the displacement, and much more. So let's create a mountain range. So in the details under the curl noise, we want to change this. So let's increase this to 2. But as you can see, it already creates sort of these mountains. We can also adjust things like the strength, the curl 2 strength, and I set this to 0.1. Then under the displacement, we can change the displacement settings. So I change this to 1350. And for the tiling, I set this to 3. So you can see it adds more realistic texture to our mountains. Now I think these are pretty good. We can actually select the full thing and move it up, so we can create much taller mountains like so. And if you want, you can duplicate these mountains to another region by just holding the Alt and dragging, and that will duplicate and add a copy of that exact brush. Now say we don't like the steep transition between the land here and the mountains. What we can do is that we can actually take this brush and duplicate this, and we can adjust the settings of this brush to create sort of a hill or a transition from our island to our mountain. So take this brush and in the settings, we're going to go to our fall off and we'll change this fall off angle to 15. And as you can see, what it does is it adds sort of this big hill. Now we can adjust and raise up or down, and it adds more of a transition between the island and our mountain range. But we also want to blend this with our mountains. We don't want it to just overtake our mountain range like this. So one way that we can blend these together is under the blend mode, we can change this to additive. And what that will do is it will add the mountain range along with this hill that we're adding on top of it. So we can drag it and it will actually increase the peaks of the mountains if we drag it underneath it. So you guys can play around with the values. If you want more fall off, you can increase the fall off like so. You can move it up or down and decrease it. And you can copy and paste it by just holding Alt and dragging to another section of the island. So you can go ahead and save that. And now we have some very simple mountains and a hill on our island map. Now let's go ahead and add a landscape material to our island. So head over to the Unreal Engine Marketplace. So open up the Epic Games Launcher and search for the landscape auto material. And you want to filter by free. So click on the max price free. And we should see this MW landscape auto material that is free on the marketplace. So we can go ahead and select this. This is a very high quality and realistic landscape auto material that we can use. So let's go ahead and click add to project, show all projects, and search for our open world map. Select that and add that to our project. So now in our project, we can get out of the landscape mode by going back to our selection mode and open up our content drawer here. And in our content drawer, we should see a new folder for MW landscape auto material. So double click, open that up. And then in there, we have a folder for materials, landscape, and we have the following landscape materials. So in here, we want to select this island landscape material and we want to select our landscape. So select our landscape. As you can see, it only selects a certain grid on our landscape. So we want to select the whole thing. So in your outliner, you want to scroll up until you find our landscape right here. So this is the parent landscape. And in the details, you want to scroll down until you see the landscape material slot. And we can drag and drop our landscape material into that slot. And what you'll see is it automatically sets up the landscape material based on the slopes and elevation. And right now we want to tweak the settings because right now you can see it only shows dirt all over the landscape material. So we want to go ahead and tweak some of the settings in the material itself. So go ahead and open up the landscape material. And in here, we can change some of the different settings. So if you expand all the details, we have a section for snow, water, dirt, grass, and much more. But we want to adjust some of the different settings that we have in here. So we can bring this side by side and have this right next to our level so we can see what we're adjusting. But in here, what I did is I played around with the values and I scrolled down to the water section and I unchecked use water. So I'm going to not use the water. And in the dirt section, we're going to go ahead and change the values in here. So each material layer has a world position. So this value corresponds with the height or world position in our level. So for example, if you were to click on the cube plus icon and drag in a simple cube, and if you look at that cube in the level and in the details, get the Z value, which is 1050, that will give us the exact height of that cube in our map. So you can use that value to correspond it with this max world position to tell you at which height should you start having this material be displayed. So for example, for our dirt, I'm going to set this to 128 so that our dirt will be down here at the very bottom. Now scroll down till we hit grass, and for our grass max world position, we want to increase this and set this to 3,900. And as you can see, it sort of covers our island or the peaks of it. Now I want to tweak the dirt on our grass. So we can tweak the blending between our dirt and grass layer. So if you go to the grass and under the MW grass slope power, we can change this value from 4 down to 1. And as you can see, it sort of removes that dirt from our island blending and it only has the grass and stone shown like so. Now to adjust things like our mountains and the snow on the peaks of the mountains, you can adjust world position. So as you can see, if I increase the value, it will change at what height should the snow start to grow on our landscape. So you can adjust it or tweak it to your liking. So next up, we want to add a water or ocean to our landscape. So we want to go to our plugins, go to edit plugins and search for water. And we want to enable the water plugin. So click on the checkbox, click yes, and click restart now. and save everything. Now we'll go ahead and restart our project. And one thing to note is that if you're doing this for the first time, you might see a compile shaders in the bottom right, and that might take you 20 to 15 minutes or longer depending on your PC specs. So now that we're back in our project, you want to go to this Q+ icon, and since we enabled the water plugin, we can search for ocean, and we should be able to add this water body ocean by just dragging and dropping it into our level. And again, it might compile shaders, so you might need to wait for it to finish compiling shaders before the ocean material to appear. Now with our water body ocean selected, in the settings we want to search for effects, and we want to uncheck effects landscape. So what that will do is our water body ocean will no longer affect our landscape, and as you can see, we can just take the entire water body mesh and we want to move it so it's in the center of our landscape here, and we can tweak the height of our ocean so you can decide at which height should the water start. And once you have a good setting, you can just leave it at that. Now, as you can see, we need to adjust some of the different settings. In fact, if you look here, you can see automatically that the water is not lining up. That actually has to do with a little bug that we can fix real quickly. So if you select the water body ocean and search for waves, in here we have this waves asset, and we can actually just reset that. And once we do that, you can see that the water mesh lines up like so. There's no seam right here. Now we also want to tweak the water settings because right now we can see bottom of our terrain right here, and we want to make our water look more realistic because obviously this light blue color isn't that great and it doesn't really match our overall style. So the way that we can customize this water material is if you go to your content drawer, you want to click on the dock in layout, and in our content folder you want to right click and create a new folder and name this to ocean materials, and double click open this up. And to find the material for our ocean, you want to select on our water body ocean and search for material, and we should have this water material, which is our water underscore material underscore ocean. And you want to browse, click on the folder browse icon to pull it up in the plugins, water content, materials, water surface, and we have the water material ocean. Now if you don't see this, you need to click on the settings and make sure that you click on show plugin content. You have that checkbox clicked. That way you can see the contents in your plugins. But now that we have that water material in here, we want to make sure that we have that selected, and also select your water far mesh. So you have both of these materials selected, water material ocean and water far mesh, and find your ocean materials and drag and drop them into your ocean materials folder and click copy here. Make sure that you click copy and not move because these are in the engine folders. So if you mess up any of the content or modify any of the content in your plugins folder, it will apply for all of your projects, and so you do not want to do that. But now that we've copied it into our ocean materials folder, we can go ahead and rename these. So let's rename our water material ocean to ocean modified, and our water far mesh, we can rename this to ocean modified far. So do a file, save all, and we can double click our ocean modified and open up that material. And we only want to change 2 settings in here to make it look good. So we want to scroll down to the global vector parameter values, and in here we're going to change the absorption. So click on the absorption, and we want to change our value from 0.8 to 2 for our alpha. And then the other setting that we want to change is a scattering. So under the scattering, hit the checkbox there, and we're going to change the alpha from 0.5 to 0.3. So save that. These are the only 2 values. The absorption changes the color, and the scattering changes how much we can see through the water to the ground. And now we want to apply this ocean modified material to our ocean. So select your water body ocean and find the material slot and just drag in our ocean modified into the water underscore material underscore ocean. So as you can see, it's a more darker color. And now we just need to change the water far material, because as you can see, they don't match up. So you want to open up the ocean modified far, and we want to adjust the same exact settings. So under the global vector parameter values, we want to change the absorption and scattering. So expand both of those. And again, for the absorption, we want to change the alpha to 2, and the scattering, we want to change this to 0.3. So save that and go back into your level, and we want to search for water and select the water zone. And with the water zone selected, we can search for material, and we should have the far distance material. So just drag in your ocean modified far into that material slot. So now you can see that we have our material set like so, and it has this more darker color and it blends together like this. So now that we've added our ocean to our map, we want to add some foliage like some trees on our island. So let's go ahead and add that real quick. So head over to the Unreal Engine Marketplace and search for vegetation and filter this by free. And so we should see all the way down here, we have this temperate vegetation spruce forest. And so this is a free asset that comes with some high quality trees. And so we can click add to project show all projects and search for our open world map and just add it to our project. And then in the content drawer, we can go ahead and dock this in the layout and go to the new folder, which is called PN Interactive Spruce Forest. And in there, we should have a folder for meshes. And I chose the full high. We have the spruce full 0, 1, 2, and 3. So you want to go from our selection mode into our foliage painting mode and scroll down till you see the drop foliage here. Shift select all of these and drag and drop it. It's going to ask us to create foliage assets. So click save, save, and save, and that will create 3 foliage assets for those static meshes. And now that they've created the foliage assets, we can shift select all of these. And if you go ahead and click anywhere on the landscape, that will go ahead and paint. As you can see, there's way too many trees, so you want to do Control Z to undo that. And let's increase our brush size, and let's decrease the paint density. So you want to decrease the paint density down to 0.01, and that will paint a lot less dense of a forest. So you can see that there's more breakup in the trees like this. And we also want to tweak some settings, because if I were to paint onto the mountain, you can see that the trees are not facing directly up. So to change that setting, you want to select all of your foliage down here, and you want to scroll down in the settings under placement and uncheck align to normal. And now if you paint it on the mountain, you can see that it's facing directly up. And now that we have those settings set, we can go ahead and start painting our forest on our landscape here by just holding down the left mouse button and painting anywhere on our map. So now that we've finished painting our trees onto our map, what you may have noticed is that the trees and the grass material do not match up exactly. So you can see that the tints are sort of off. And so one way that we can change that is in the landscape material. So if you go to your content folder and find the MW Landscape Auto Material, open up the Landscape Island example, and over here in the details, so we can change the grass tint. So you want to click on this grass color correction, and with this side by side, you can match up the grass material to your liking. So click on the value here and change this to maybe a more darker tint or something with a more brown color like so. So this is the value that I set. You can go ahead and save that. And now you can see that the trees match up with the color of the island. You can use Control L to change the direction of the lighting and see what it looks like. But as you can see, you can match up the value of the trees with the grass on the island so that the materials will match up. And of course, you can also adjust things like the actual tree materials. So if you wanted to go into the tree materials and tweak the color variations for those, you can also do that as well. Now that is it for this tutorial. I showed you guys how to create a open world map with just a couple of clicks inside of Unreal Engine, only using some built-in tools and some free assets that we found on the Unreal Engine marketplace. If you guys enjoyed this free tutorial, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. Also leave a comment down below on what video tutorial you guys want to see me upload next. And also check out my multiplayer survival game course bundle that shows you how to make an open world multiplayer Steam survival game inside of Unreal Engine 5 from complete scratch. The course has over 250 plus lectures, 70 hours of course content, and you don't want to miss out on the survival game course bundle because I will be raising the price later on. So check it out on my website, smartpoly.teachable.com. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.